Welcome back to my channel. This is Sherry, and this is in Sherry's opinion. This video is going to be very triggering for some people. It's a true story, and it's my story of SA. I'm going to try to use terminology that YouTube will accept when telling my story. And to know my story, we have to start at the beginning. And when you go through therapy, they always say, well, what was your childhood like? What was your relationship like with your mother, with your father, you know? So we'll start there. I was always very close to my mother. I was a mama's girl. My father wasn't really close to us. He wasn't affectionate. He never hugged us or told us he loved us, and there was 3 of us girls. There's only one sister that I actually claim, though. The other one I do not, for many reasons. And in 1980, June, my sister that I don't claim anymore, she got married. And I was 13 at the time, and I stood up for her. And that's where I met my first husband, future husband. He was 21. He stood up for the groom. And that night, they had a little party at their apartment. And there was drinking and things happening. I wanted to go home, but they were drinking, so they couldn't take me home. But in October, by this time I had turned 14, I became pregnant. And of course I didn't tell my parents because they didn't talk about things. They didn't tell you about the birds and the bees or your cycle coming if you were a girl. So I hid it, and I was 3 months pregnant in January. Let's see, October, November, December, January. I was 3 months pregnant. I was taken to a clinic to see if I was pregnant. And I was. And I was also too far along for an abortion. However, I was not going to do that. So my mother and I went home. She cried the whole way home. And I went straight to my room, and I did not come out for a month. She brought me my meals. I only came out to go to the bathroom, which was just the door just right next to it, to my bedroom. And that night, that first night, I could hear my father weeping like I have never ever heard in my life. And it killed me. And my mother comes in my room and she says, well, do you love him enough to marry him? Of course I said yes. but I was 14 and he was 21 or 22. So February the 6th, February the 6th, we got married. And we struggled financially in the beginning. But to make a long story short, there was a time we had 3 kids by the time I was 19. I had one in Oklahoma, one in North Carolina, and one in Texas. He was in the service because there for a while, he lived at his mom and dad's, and I lived at my mom and dad's because he didn't want to work. So when I turned 15, I had my little girl, my first one, and I went to work, and I lied. I said I was 16 because I needed to buy diapers and things like that for the baby because he didn't work. So he ended up joining the service, and then he came out and I left with him, and there was a lot of DV involved in our relationship. And some of it, a lot of it, was done in front of other people, and nobody did anything about it. By the time my oldest was 15, she called my mother and told my mother that her grandfather, not my father, but her other grandfather, had been doing things to her. And my mom called me at work, and of course I was hysterical, and I went home and I got a gun, made sure it was loaded, and I was headed out the door. My husband at the time stopped me, had me sit on the couch, and he said, "No, wait, just think about this. Let's just calm down. I'm sure he didn't mean to hurt anybody. He loves them, la, la, la." Well, I called him on the phone, and I asked him, "Does your bleep get hard when you touch my daughter?" And he said, "What?" And I said it again. And he said, "She was the only one. I didn't touch anybody else, just her." Come to find out, of course, that was a lie. Then my daughters tell me that he was doing it to the other daughter. And then they tell me that their dad did it too. My oldest said, I forgive him. I just want to forget it. She never really admitted that he did. She just said that she forgives him and wants to forget it. Well, this did two different things to two different girls. My oldest one would stay gone for a week or two and come back filthy, stinking, lice-infested, drugged out of her mind. And the other one stayed in her room and cut herself and thought that she was ugly and fat and nobody would ever love her. So it affects children differently. When your child says something to you, pay attention. I had no clue of what was going on. I worked all the time because my husband didn't. And the whole family knew about it because it was rampant through the family. All the grandkids were being done this way. Not just my kids, but all of the kids, all of them. Even one of the boys. And I'm saying all this stuff. It's going to probably make a lot of my family mad, but it's my right to talk about it. We went through interviews at the police station downtown. And it didn't stop there. After I divorced him, he got with a woman that was a wealthy oncologist, and my children, the oldest one was already grown and out, but the younger two were living with their dad and this woman. They wanted to live there. They were older. She put them through college. And she called me one day from work. I was at work. And she called me. And she told me she said, you need to come and get your daughter. And I said, why, what's going on? And she said, I seen some things that were inappropriate. And I am disgusted and I'm sick about it. And so I said, okay. So I went and I got her. And I brought her to my house, which I lived in a different town at that time. And I called the police again. And this was between 2000 and I would say between 2000 and 2004 or 5. So they took the report. They went and seen him, and they told him. They got his DNA, and they said, if we ever hear of any more allegations of you like this, you will be arrested, you will go to jail, you will not pass go, and you will not collect $200. And that's what the police officer stated to me that they told him. Well, okay. Then later on, I started having grandchildren. I have 10 grandchildren. One of them I adopted as a 2-year-old. One of them is a half-brother my mom is raising. Well, raised. He's now 20. And recently, this is kids from my oldest daughter. My oldest daughter gave up her daughter that she had after she got married. Recently gave her up. Then one of my other, she's like a step granddaughter, but she's still a granddaughter, went to his house that he shares with a girlfriend. And she went over there to help clean house. I don't know why. Make a little money, is what they said. And she was inappropriately touched, and I don't know how extreme it was. But these men, they don't stop. They don't stop. There's no cure. There's no magic potion, no magic spell, no magic pill, no castration. Nothing can cure these men. And they don't stop until they are forced to stop. Like going to prison or going to their grave. He has been around other granddaughters of mine. So I am very concerned of what's going on. Children give off clues. If they are extremely afraid of someone, or they don't want them to hold them, or they don't want to hug them, and they go to grandma's and they scream and cry, please don't make me go back, please don't make me go back. Or if they run and hide when somebody's around. My kids gave off clues. They gave off red flags, but I didn't see it. I was young. I was naive. I was manipulated, and I didn't see it. I want people to understand the clues. And when your child tells you something, You need to listen. I always say this. Don't listen to your head, because your head will talk you out of things. Don't listen to your heart, because your heart will be, oh, he's so sweet. He didn't mean to. They took it wrong. Whatever. Listen to your gut instinct. Your gut instinct is going to tell you, ooh, I don't know about this. You get that feeling. Everybody does. You walk through Walmart, ooh, get a bad feeling. You know, you don't think that it's going to happen in your family, but that's the first place it starts. And it started in their family, because the sister was being essayed by her father, which would be my children's grandfather, who is now dead, thank God. So she taught her brothers what sex was. She wanted to teach them how to do it. My husband told me that. My first ex-husband. And it did a lot of damage to me too. I blamed myself because I didn't protect my children. Because I didn't see the signs. Because I was always working. And who would have thought that something like this was possible? But I tell you what, it is. And that's where it starts. It starts in the home. It'll be the father, the grandfather, the uncle, the brother, the cousin. And sometimes it's women. So you really can't trust people around your children. And especially if you are a single woman with a child or children, and you meet a man and you let him come into your home around your children when you don't know who the hell he is, and then you leave him alone with your children while you go to work. That's stupid. You're desperate for a babysitter. And I know. I've seen it. I've reported it. Grandparents killing their grandchildren. Or I should say, unaliving their grandchildren. It's rare, but it happens. So, my story of SA stopped with my children, and now it's the grandchildren. So who's going to stop him? Who's going to put a stop to this? The police don't want to listen, or at least they didn't back then. So what do? What does the parents of these children do? Do we take the law into our own hands? We're not supposed to. Watch your children. Listen to them. Do not dismiss what they say. Don't downplay what they say. You report it. You get your child to a doctor that can examine them. Because this is stuff that happens all the time. And it sticks with them. It sticks with you. And as a mama, it has stuck with me. I have PTSD. I have anxiety. I have depression. I have a lot of thoughts that I shouldn't have towards myself and others. I just want you to understand that when your child tells you something, you need to listen. You need to have a good relationship with your child where you guys can talk and communicate every day about everything. Don't teach your child, oh, well, we don't talk about that. You need to be able to talk about everything. I'm just now being able to open my eyes again. So many tears yesterday. My eyes were not open. They were so swollen. They're still swollen, but not as bad. It will live on with your child. My daughter that used to stay in her room, I took her to a hospital and I left her there. For a long time. And she's grateful for it. My oldest one, no, she wouldn't go. She'd rather be homeless. And she is right now. She'd rather be on drugs. And we can't help her anymore. We can't change her. The only thing we can do now is pray. Pray for her. And pray that we don't get a knock at the door or a phone call saying that they've found her body. We've came to the realization that that could happen. And my granddaughters that she left are fine where they're at with their dad. But their dad is fighting for his life right now. He has stage 4 colon and liver cancer. And he is raising his 3 kids, living with a bag of chemotherapy treatment for 3 days straight. So, if you would, pray for him, for me. And I've talked to him, and you know, my son, he just turned 18. And I put out a post that he would like to meet his biological mother and his brother, half-brother, or step-brother, it doesn't matter. Step, half, full, it don't matter. His brother and his 2 sisters that he's never met. And the father was my son-in-law. He was the only one to reach out to me. My daughter did not. So, we are going to get together, and we are going to have a good visit. And even those things like that, it's a trickle down effect. The abuse she went through has messed her up so bad. And I'm not blaming her. I'm blaming the person who hurt her. Because he has messed her mind up so bad. And all she's looked for was a relief from the pain in her mind and in her soul. But it's affecting her kids. For years now. I mean, she has a 20-year-old. She has an 18-year-old. A 16. A 14. 13. I can't remember exactly. Because I haven't been around these kids. This is going to be a new experience for us. So, it's affecting them. So what he's done, the father, has affected the daughter. And now it's affecting the grandchildren. When is it going to stop? It's going to stop when I make it stop. Because all of us are in agreement that we will all testify on everything that has ever happened. Ever since 1965. when the grandfather remortgaged his home to get out of jail. So, that is a 57-year essay, family problem. See, it doesn't stop. You have to make it stop. And when this has happened, this is it. This is it. It's going to stop. You have to have the strength to make it stop. Listen to your children. They're the only ones you have. You can replace that man, but you can't replace your children. Thank you for listening. Good night.